morning, everybody. I would like to introduce Nadav Egozi, the Corporate Solutions Director in Accelium in Israel. And I have many nice questions about the Accelium products, as he is expert in the corporate solutions, that it's important for us in Hungary, as well as we are concentrating now on the corporate sector. So first of all, Accelium has 3 products: skills development trainings, assessment, and talent tests for recruitment. Let's begin first with the assessment, and I would like to ask you, why so important to have feedback from our skills, and what kind of advantages has a game-based assessment test?
Okay, so first of all, good morning and hello. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Szilvia, for this opportunity. Yes, skills assessment is, in my opinion and experience, a crucial tool in understanding the way that people can improve and the way they can better cope with the challenges of the 21st century. The World Economic Forum defined the top skills, 10 top skills of employees for the 21st century. They update it from time to time, but on any top list that you will find, you'll always find skills like problem solving, decision making, critical thinking, flexible analysis. Okay, so we allow participants and companies and organizations to profile the way that people think and the way that they perform in these skills. And I think that today companies understand that more and more, and they are very much focused on that. And you can see, high-tech companies, as well as, by the way, public institutes and government offices that are looking, or they're trying to figure out a way to better understand the way people think, and not only the way that they perform a technical task. And this is a gap that we fill in. We fill in this gap because games simulates our thinking processes. There is a nice saying by Plato, the Greek philosopher. He said that you can learn more about a person by 1 hour of play than 1 year of talk. And I really believe that. I think that when people play, you can simulate their thinking processes. You can see the way that they approach the challenge, the attitude, the way they analyze, the way they demonstrate flexibility in their thinking. And this is exactly the kind of things that today the industries are looking to assess. And games allows us to do that. They really demonstrate and simulate these kind of skills. And I don't know of many other ways that you can really assess these skills. The only thing that you can do is have someone, some psychological, so people who with some psychological background maybe observe and go through an interview, but this has the disadvantage of being very subjective. I mean, it's always a question of what did he think about this person, and there are many biases, cultural biases and so on. But when a person plays a game and we have an AI system that is objectively assessing what he's doing, then we have a good tool to know this person's skills and not just technical skills, but the crucial skills for the 21st century. This is why I really think that skills assessment and thinking skills assessment is important, and this is why I think games are excellent tools to do that.
Yes, and what do you think? I think that in this sector we are pioneers. I can see, for example, on the Hungarian market that many clients sometimes don't understand. So we have to teach to this new kind of development, the corporates, the people, to understand this methodology.
Definitely there is a need for educating the market or convincing the market, and there are always those early adopters who believe in that and understand the need quickly. By the way, usually it's the more developed and advanced companies like Google and these kind of companies that, or startups that knows they see immediately the need. But it is true that game-based assessment is an innovating field. It's quite new in terms of assessment tools are tools that have been researched and tested for many years. The classic tools are here for 60 years, 70 years, and we are talking about game-based assessment is something that is like no more than 10 years, I think, the important things. And it is an innovating tool. It's an innovating field, and I think there is still way to go and things to develop. But it is, I think this is a very important development. I know that, game, or let's say the concept of gamification has been around for many years, maybe more than 20 years now. People really understand why gamification is very important. But I think that what people sometimes miss is the difference between game-based learning and game-based assessment to the gamification. With gamification, you kind of cover the experience with some game elements to create more engagement. Mm-hmm. But game-based learning and game-based assessment is a real in-depth use of the game as the learning environment itself. And there is no external content. It's just the game. And this is something different and new, and proud to be part of it. It's a new field.
Me too.
Yeah. We are very happy to have you with us, and I think that the market in Hungary is now approaching this new methodology and tools, and I really hope to get things going. I mean, we have good success. Yeah,
in Hungary, I think we can find the creative and innovative people. Of course, the market is little, but I think that we was always famous about our brains. So I hope that in the future I will find these brains. So
yeah, Hungary has lots of talents. I'm a chess player, so everyone now is talking about the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah,
but the real queen of chess is from Hungary. It's Judith Polgar. She was an amazing player. Amazing.
Yes.
And there are many other talents, I know.
Yeah. And what do you think? Because the skills development as well, it's enough new. And first of all, I saw that in this period, the companies want to concentrate how to sell more, communication skills and so on. But I think that, for example, the skills development, the problem solving, first of all, in this period, the flexible, develop the flexible thinking would be the decision making, the analysis. So these kind of skills would be the most important to develop. And what do you think? Why is so important to develop these kind of skills?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think that companies, most companies, if they're not really public, but even the public companies are always looking at the ROI, the return on investment, and things are very tight, and there is budget issues and so on, and they want to see that they are investing in something that you can see the return and so on. And this is why traditionally companies would invest in sales and things that you can immediately see the impact. But I think that, and we see that today with our clients all over the world, and I'm personally delivering a lot of skills development programs in Israel for diverse industries, from high-tech, banks, government, universities, the army, and all of these companies and managers in these companies understand today that, first of all, knowledge and techniques is something that today is easy to learn. People learn that easily by themselves. They don't need you to teach them that. My child at 10 years old just goes to YouTube and he can, do whatever you want. He just needs to find the right YouTube channel, and that's it. But to solve a problem, to cope with changes, to cope with uncertainty, to understand your decision-making processes, this is something that is difficult to learn by yourself, and it is difficult for companies to teach, because even if you have a good manager, he or she can be excellent managers, but not many managers can really mentor and develop their employees in this sense. And this is something that they find really frustrating, that they can do, the person can be, I was, for many years, I was a VP R&D for Accelium Group VP R&D, and I was in charge of the development team. And we had software programmers and design, studio, and I was, when we cope with the problem, when you have a software engineer that needs to solve a problem, he could be a great professional. He could be, know all the programming languages and everything. But if he or she doesn't know what to do when he faces a problem that is difficult for him and he needs to consult and so on, then he's stuck, and then you need to pull him out there. This is exactly the kind of things that I met not so long ago. I met a CEO of a software company. He told me, listen, I don't need you to teach them programming. They know that. They also are very good with analytical ability, for example, but they're not flexible, and they don't cope with problems in a good way. Sometimes they just stop. It paralyzes them. And this is what I need you to do. This is what, if they will be able to do that, the rest, leave it to me. I know how to work with them on projects and database and programming and so on, but how to teach them to be better problem solvers, I don't know how to do that. And this is exactly what they see the gap. And we see that in all industries, everywhere. I mean, in not only high tech, in banks, in, even teachers today, do they ask teachers, or do they assess if teachers can think in a flexible way before they become teachers? In most countries, they don't. And I think this is an amazing gap, in today's world where a teacher needs to work with kids who move really fast and change really fast and think faster than we do. And she or he as a teacher needs to be flexible in the way they think, because they're coping with something that they weren't taught. And if I would need to assess a teacher, I would have first thing ask her to be flexible thinker, and so I see this gap everywhere, and it's very important. Skills development, I think today is maybe the number one need in many companies.
Yeah, and I think that, for example, how to think. This, so you can't find in schools, except where they can study with Accelium methodology. But but that is a big advantage. For example, for that kids who are already 7 years old, and they can start to learn how to think. So they will have a big advantage in the life, I think. What do you think? What is the important of integrating games into the learning process and the skills assessment?
Yeah, we already talked about the fact that games they're very good for simulating thinking processes. So I think this is one very important feature or advantage of the game, that you get an environment that is like a simulator. It simulates the way you think, and it allows us to observe the way you think, the way you cope, the way you do problem solving with another person. Like if two people are playing a game together and they need to beat the AI and they need to think together, so they need to articulate their thinking process. I need to explain to you why I think this is a good move, and you need to explain to me why you think we need to do something different. And then we just find a better way to understand ourselves, and then also to get new perspective. So one very important feature of games in the learning process is this simulation. And this is, as I said before, the big difference between gamification and game-based learning. With game-based learning, we use the game as a simulating tool. Second, and not less important, is the engagement. Today, it's very difficult to get attention. People, I think attention is maybe one of the biggest challenge of our generation. We are everywhere. I mean, we're on the phone, and we're on the Facebook, and on Twitter and Instagram, and it's the attention is everywhere. It's very difficult to get attention, and also the interval, like how much time people can be attentive to one thing is also very limited. No more than 1 minute, 2 minutes. If it's a video with more than 2 minutes, then people just move on to the next thing. And games allows us to capture the attention because it creates very strong engagement. It creates, the theory of flow, that you keep people between they're being challenged but not frustrated. Okay, but they're being challenged enough not to be bored, and their skill is growing as they continue to learn through the game. So we managed to create this flow that keep the engagement on a high level. It's fun. People, when I deliver, one of the things I love about delivering workshops is that I always see people smile, and they go out when they just feel that they had a good time. It's not, you go to work, you're very busy with things, and suddenly you're doing something that is both very meaningful and you get great insights, but also you did that in a fun and engaging way. That's not trivial, So we have those two important, I think, features of the game, and also it's important to notice that the games, not only that they are fun, but they create a situation where you construct your learning. I mean, you create your own insights, and this is something, they say that you need to understand something in order to learn, not only to memorize that, but if you understand that. So when people construct their own, there is a whole theory about constructing learning. If people really can construct their own understanding, then they are in a much better way to understand, to implement, to remember that, it's a very meaningful thing for them. So construction, creating this process is very important, and games allows us to do that.
I think that you answered already, but perhaps in one or two words, I think it's important to tell that how the people change during an Accelium training, and how their mode of thinking change, and what Accelium trainings give more to the participants than other trainings.
Yeah, I would like to talk from my experience, because I meet a lot of groups of employees and managers in different, so first-hand experience. You know, one of the things that I love about that is that when I go to a client and I met people, I delivered workshops, we did a program with, you know, several workshops and assessment and one-on-one meetings. And then after, I don't know, 6 months or so, I come again to this client for another group, and then I see in the elevator or you know, in the hall, one of the participants from the previous, and she said, you know, Nadav, I still remember every thinking concept that we had in this workshop, and I'm telling you that I'm using that every day. I'm using that. It became something natural for me to use, and it is so strong in the way that it helps me to cope with my challenges, and I really changed the way I think about many things. Mm-hmm. And this is for me, you know, the ultimate test, that people give this kind of feedback and they say, listen, this really got into me, you know, I managed to implement a new language of thinking. So for me, this is the most important impact. Actually, every time that we approach a program, we always say there are two objectives. One is to implement a thinking language and strategies that could be used to cope with different challenges. And it doesn't matter if this person is doing is a service management or software development, or he's doing educational projects or whatever, you know, or he's an officer in the army. All of them have different challenges, but they cope with the same thinking processes. Mm-hmm. And the objective is to apply this thinking language on their challenges. Not only, and this is something important, I think, that when we, I think the strong part of our methodology is that it doesn't stop with the game. I mean, we're not only about, you know, making fun and creating the engagement, and then, okay, you can see this concept, this strategy in a game. We're not here to make you a good chess player or checker player or blocker or whatever, okay? The real challenge and the real objective is to implement these, to apply these thinking concepts in their own professions. So if this guy is education project manager, then we want to help him to cope with his projects. We want to really exercise and you know, work with him on how he can use those concepts in his work. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I think that we really impact and make change is that people actually endorse this thinking language, and they start talk this way. They say, listen, you know, I always look for anchors. I'm looking for anchors because I think in my situation that we have a lot of uncertainties, and I need something to hold on to. So now that I can call that in a name, and I say anchors, and I understand from the game what anchor means, then I can really transfer that to my challenges, and I use it a lot. I use it all the time. This is, and the second objective of any program is to create more awareness to thinking processes, to help people start reflecting, you know. So they do. There is a big word called metacognitive, you know. But actually, what they do is to think about the way they think. Okay, to think about the way they think. This is what we want them to do. And sometimes they come up with insights that we didn't even think of. You know, they bring their own learnings. But if we manage to get them to the point where they do a lot of reflections and they really aware to the way they cope with a new problem, or to the way they took some decision, then in this case they improved. They really improved.
Yes, I had an experience. Last year I made a training to top managers, and it was a decision-making workshop, and we learned the techniques, and they told, wow, Szilvia, generally I am using this kind of techniques, but in this way that they received a name, and I am aware to use the self-block, for example, that is a totally different thing. And they were telling me that wow, I know that the other manager is using that self-block. Now I know that, but it's different, really. So we can give very good tools and to the top managers as well, in a way that it's possible that they are using these kind of techniques, but they are not aware of that. So that is the key as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Many times people say, listen, I always thought this way, but I never really thought it's like a thinking strategy. And then when they understand that it's a thinking strategy, the important thing is that they can transfer this strategy from one challenge to another, because sometimes they do implement that in one challenge, but they don't embrace that as a constant, pattern that they use. And they don't do that. They come to a new challenge and it's like from scratch. They need to find a solution. But if you can just identify these kind of patterns that are successful and useful for you, and think, okay, what did I do last time or in a different challenge? Yesterday I had a webinar with students in one of the universities, by the way, computer science students in one of the universities in Israel. And we discussed analytical ability. And one of the ladies there, one of the students, she said, I want to, one challenge that I want to run 10 kilometers. And then we started to think of similar processes that she had, like going from being, kind of a new in a specific profession, and into a process that that will take time and effort, but will bring you to some point. And I asked her to think of similar situation, not running, something different. Maybe the first time she learned how to program in a new language, what was the pattern that helped her to go from A to B? And then use this pattern and just use it on the running thing. So if we are able to transfer patterns from one situation to another, then yes, then we are learning and improving.
I think it's a good example, the first wave and the second one. That on the second wave in this situation
of the COVID-19.
Yes, yeah. So in the second one, for example, and it's was aware, but who knows? But we were using Zoom, Teams, this one, that one, homework. Okay, we weren't shocked already. So something similar that we can use that already worked once. But this situation, it's a good example as well. You were working already with Accelium in different sectors. And can you describe, I know that you love every workshop, every client, but I'm sure that you had a favorite one where there was, for example, a big problem, and with Accelium, you could resolve it. And what was the result of at the end of the Accelium workshop?
Mm-hmm. I can recall several examples, but yes, for example, I remember one client. It's definitely one of my favorite clients. I think it's like 3 years ago, but I still remember it. It has a warm place in my heart. It's a biotech. It's a biotech company, very innovating. They're doing, amazing things in developing new medicines from biological things. Something, really innovating and amazing. And there are like around 300 people in this company. Very high profile of employees. A lot of them are, PhD and masters and so on. And we had a program for 20 talent managers from this team, from this company. 20 people from different parts of the organization, but all these people were defined as talents of this company, meaning that the company saw them as the core leadership for the future. They wanted to invest in them. They want them to become powerful positions and so on. Mm-hmm. And we had a program with them, with the workshops. We did problem-solving workshop, decision-making, analysis and deduction, and so on. And first of all, the company was in really big challenges, really huge challenges they had back then. And the atmosphere was very, on one hand, very good in terms of the team, like it's a good team working together. But on the other hand, you saw the effort, the fact that they really need to find solutions to things. And one of the things that was very good there was that we created a process where after each workshop of Accelium, they went on to choose 2 projects that they can use those strategies they've learned with Accelium, and to think how can they really solve those problems they have with the strategies. And then they needed to present it to a group of directors, like VPs, some VPs from the company. So
nice.
Yeah, so it was a very meaningful implementation, and they really came up with at least one. They were working in pairs. So one pair came up with a very innovating idea on how to keep some, I don't want to go into the details, but some sterilization process in one of their labs. They need to be very sterilized, and they had some issues with how much time they can do before they ship things and so on. They managed to work with the tools of the problem-solving workshop, the end-to-beginning thinking, and breaking down the problem, and temporary parking. Mm-hmm. And they actually created a new way of managing this sterilization process. Mm-hmm. That was a very, for me, a very unique moment, because it's if we talked about ROI, it's not only that the company saw that they developed their thinking, but they actually saw a solution, a business solution developed through this process, and it was a huge impact. But I remember other cases. I had a workshop in a bank who implemented a new queue system. Like when you go to the bank, you get this number and you get into the queue. So they developed a way that you can go to the bank's app and just make an appointment. Like, you don't need to go and take this number, but you do it in advance. You say, my appointment is 11 o'clock. And then there were two ladies working on this project. It's a big bank, okay, lots of branches and so on. And they were working with how to train the tellers, the people who sits in the bank and need to give you service. How can they manage the schedule, their own? Because now they have appointments. Before they didn't have appointments. They just was sitting in their desk and waiting for people to take the number. But now they have appointments. And what they found out through the thinking process that we did in the workshop was that these people never worked with a calendar. They never actually worked with any, Outlook or Gmail calendar or something that will. And suddenly they understood that they need to do training about that. I mean, they need to train these people to work with this. And that was another example of, a project I remember that was really taking a new shift because of the things we analyzed. But there are many others, it's the time is short, but I can go on like that. I really think that I can tell in any workshop, in any meeting that we have with clients, there is always some impact on, concrete things.
Accelium has tests for recruitment as well.
Yeah.
Can you speak about the advantages to use this game-based system? Why is good for companies? Why is good for candidates?
Okay. We already talked about how game-based assessment works and why it's a good tool to assess skills. So I don't want to repeat that. I will just say that for recruitment, it's the same way, that it's just a very good tool for recruiters to know if the person you're now going to employ is a good thinker. That's one thing that is very important. But there are other advantages that the game-based recruitment tool has. First of all, today the market is very competitive. Employees, especially the young generations, they think, very good before they go into a job. They want to pick the right company for them. And they have criteria, like they want it to be meaningful and with good attitude and, with good people and cool and, they want a good place and they're picky about it. And companies today in many industries, in many countries, find themselves competing over good employees. And it's just like any kind of competition over people. I mean, you need to be attractive. And the game-based assessment as a recruitment tool is very attractive. I mean, when job applicants, when young people who apply to positions, they see that the company they are applying to test them in a very cool way and the fun way, and not, in like, they don't want to answer 300 questions about themselves. They don't want to be interviewed for 3 hours. They get to take a test, 20 minutes test, and that's it. And it's a test that is games. I mean, it's fun. And you can do it on mobile. And so it's all up to date and familiar for them. It's like, this is the way they do things. So for them, it's a great branding experience of this company. So the brand of the company, there is a whole field called brand employment, like how to get your brand good enough for employees to want to work there. And companies today invest a lot in that, and this is one very important advantage of game-based assessment as a recruitment tool, because the employees, they see that they are going to work in a place which is innovating and fun and up to date, So this is a very important advantage for both sides. And also it's very easy, the whole process is very easy. You send a link, the applicant just take the test on his mobile or PC or whatever, tablet, and then you immediately see the results. There is no lag or time that you need someone to write a report or something like that. So today there is a big need in the industries of, recruitment of mass of people that needs to be in a good way to create a good brand employment, up to date, not doing those long, boring. And also another thing I didn't mention is that game-based assessment has a very strong perceived validity. Perceived validity is the fact that when a person is taking a test with thinking games, he can really understand why this is testing his thinking process. He sees strong, he doesn't need to read the research. It's perceived. He can see that this kind of challenges is all about thinking. He knows that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that the applicant, don't see this as something superficial. They trust what you do. They see that you're doing something that is, correct and not just not connected to anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What tips can you give to the consultants who are interested in incorporating a game-based assessment as a part of their toolbox?
I think that one important thing is that you make friends with the games. Okay, you need to be a friend with the game. Don't think of it as a black box, as a closed box that you don't understand what's going on there. You just see the report. You need to understand. I think you will be a very good consultant to your clients if you have the ability to show and explain the connection between what happens in the game and how this is related to real life. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you can explain that the reason that we think that someone has strong, flexible thinking is because of the way that he coped with changing environment in the games and the way that he managed to generate new patterns and new strategies in new situations, and the fact that changes and uncertainty didn't paralyze him and didn't made him freeze and go wrong and so on. If you are able to explain that and show that in the game, then you create stronger validity to your clients. They really understand why they're taking the right decisions. Mm-hmm. They need to understand that. They need to be sure. They need this certainty. And if you just see that as a black box, then you don't add value. My tip, when I say make friends with the game, try to understand, play the games, and really try to understand with all the. Of course, we do. Accelium will give a lot of training to. We always give, I think, good training to our professionals, and I think that use this training to understand the thinking processes in the game. If you are managed, if you will be able to do that, then you really bring you really became a professional with game-based assessment and game-based learning. This is becoming a professional in this field, and because I'm sure that all of the people that want to use Accelium they are already working in the market and they are consultants and they have their skills and they know how to facilitate and consult and so on, but they're looking for a tool to empower them and to differentiate them and to upskill, you know, what they're offering to their clients. They're looking for something that will be up to date with technology and with all the advantages that we've just talked. And they need to, you know, upskill themselves as well. They need to really not to be afraid from the game. The games are not very difficult. If you practice them, you don't need to be a chess player. Don't be afraid of that.
Yes, first of all, the ladies, the ladies participants or ladies facilitators are worried. Wow, what if I won't be good? Or
I don't know. I always many times people ask me about the difference between men and women in this perspective of how they approach games and so on. I don't see any difference, to tell you the truth. I think, you know, it's really personal. Some people are naturally and they love it and it's intuitively for them. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. And some it's more difficult and they need some time. But the good news is that there's nothing practice cannot solve in this manner. I mean, in these terms. I mean, if they practice enough, they'll be great professionals. It's just about being determined and you know, focused, and you need to have the will. And we have a great growth center in Hungary, so you'll get great training and consultancy and so on, and you can become a great professional.
I know that, for example, in Accelium trainings, the coach has a very big part of the success. And I remember learning by doing. Do it, don't be afraid, do it. And I can see as Accelium trainer and facilitator that day by day, training by training, coaching by coaching, I can recognize always new things in Accelium and depths. And I can see, for example, in new facilitators as well who started to work, they were worried, of course. And if you start to do it, they love it. They have big success. And I think that Accelium is a gift to the companies as well and to the participants. But I think that it's a very big gift to the trainer because we are learning day by day, continually. So I think it can be the university of life or something like that. So it's good. How you see the future of talent recruitment, assessment, and training sector? It's changing.
Yeah, it's a big question. I think that with recruitment and assessment, we see the world going into really understanding the more complex skills that people have and should have, like we talked, like the way they take decisions, the way they adjust their thinking processes, the way they approach problems, and so on. So I think the world is going there. The need will be more and more present and clear to everyone. The more that positions will become automated, and I don't want to. They always give us this dark future about robots replacing people and so on. I don't think this will happen so fast. If not, I don't know if at all. But definitely a lot of positions will go away and will be automated, and people will need to work in position which really they need to demonstrate the good human intelligence and what differentiates us from computers, and I think that this is definitely the world of assessment is going there, and companies are looking for new ways to to assess their employees. There are stories about how companies like Facebook and Google started interviewing and asking people questions like, who do you think will win, Superman or Spider-Man? And they want to see how the applicant approach this kind of a question. And this is something that 30 years ago you would never imagine that would be asked in a job interview. So I think that the world is definitely going there. The market leaders are already there, and I think that game-based assessment has a very important role in this trend. And with skills, I see two important trends. One is the fact that that we need to reskill and upskill employees and job applicants all the time, and that is cross countries, cultures, and also it cross all ages. It doesn't matter if you are a young student who just graduated and started working, and the company understands that you need to be skilled in something and trained to do something, or if you are 45, already working 15 years in the company, you also need to learn, and you need maybe even more, because a lot of your knowledge is not relevant anymore, and you need to learn new things. I don't think that we want to live in a world where people who worked 15 years in a company are useless because they're not up to date. The companies needs to help them to become updated and relevant. So that's another trend, the long life learning. Long life learning, I think, is definitely something that is it's already here, but it will be more and more important. And the last thing is that, and this is something that I think is a very big challenge, is the fact that people will need, training and learning needs to be personalized. And everyone is saying that for many years now, that training needs to be personalized, but I think that it's not easy. I think it is not easy to get, training that will fit every person in a different way, in different time, that people want to learn not on Thursday 4:00. They want to learn on their own time, whenever it's good, when they take the train, I don't know, whenever they need. And this is a big challenge because online training is more difficult than face-to-face, because with face-to-face facilitators can always talk to the person, create a dialogue, and so on. But online learning, it's really kind of one-way learning. I think that games definitely have a role in this place because they allow you to enter a learning environment. And then you can do it, you can get your own insights and so on, and you can use a lot of technology to empower that. But I definitely think this is one of the challenges of the future, how to help people learn, on their own time and in their own phase. And we need to find the right tools. Definitely games is part of this this journey, and games and technology, AI, game-based AI, the things that we are developing in Accelium, I think is definitely a part of the solution.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I think we received very useful and interesting information.
It's been 54 minutes.
Exactly. So yes. So thank you very much, really, your time, because I know that you are very busy. I appreciate that, but I think that it's useful, can be useful for all companies, people, all the growth centers in all over the world. So I think it was very interesting interview. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that, and have a nice and successful day.
Thank you very much, Szilvia. Thank you. Have a good day.